Weekend. I'm your host, Jack. Let's get into it, Minny. Drinking the podcast. Tonight is the third installment from the 4-pack of the White Claw Zero Proof. And tonight we went with their new rendition on their black cherry, and it's black cherry cranberry. And I have to say, even being a black cherry flavor fan and savant, if you will, I gotta be honest with you guys. I really don't even taste any of the cranberry. If anything, drinking this, the black cherry in this one is almost like more potent or like more apparent than the alcoholic version. And I feel like this cranberry does nothing other than just accentuating that. You're not actually getting those contrasting flavors. You're just getting more oomph from that black cherry, and I really like it. I really like it. So yeah, like I said, tonight the black cherry cranberry. Really like it. Discover a smart way to drink with non-alcoholic White Claw Zero Proof, the perfect balance of ripe black cherry flavor and a hint of tart cranberry. Gives this an extremely refreshing depth of flavor. And I guess the more I pay attention to it, I can probably taste a little bit of the cranberry, like as an aftertaste, a little bit. But man, that is good. Yeah, like I said, so far, black cherry, when I was drinking, was probably my favorite of the three, just because, like some of the reasons we've talked about before. I love the flavor. The lime one tastes kind of like it's just like basic gin and tonic, which is really, really good. It's just nothing that like jumps out at me and surprise and brings me from one of them. And then, yeah, the mango and peach are fine, kind of there in the middle, but just like the alcoholic ones, I have to say this one's probably my favorite. If you go to, it's just whiteclaw.com. You can go through, you can find all their products, and specifically the White Claw Zeros you can find at DoorDash, Hy-Vee, or Target online. And then in-store, you can click on the little thing and it'll show you what in your area or on the map where you can find them. So yeah, really cool. And trying to remember, Facebook, Instagram, and X. I think it's not listed here, but I think I've seen them on TikTok. So go check them out. This isn't, like Jones Soda Co. or some kind of small mom and pop shop. I'm sure most of you, whether you drink or not, have heard of White Claw. They're very good. Even though I don't drink, they have a lot of very other good stuff. One of their big things that they came up with this summer are Claw Tails, which are essentially, you guessed it, their twist on White Claws and cocktails. So they got like strawberry Cosmo, mango margarita, blackberry mojito, and tropical Mai Tai. So just like everybody, they're coming out with a bunch of their stuff. Their Search Hard seltzers are pretty rad. I think I remember having those a couple years ago when I did drink, and those were pretty good too. So like I said, go check them out. For those that maybe don't drink or trying to take a little bit break from drinking, I urge you guys, go check these out. They're not going to honestly taste much different than the originals, other than the fact that there's just no alcohol in them, and you can drink if you seriously wanted to. I don't recommend it, but if you really wanted to, you could probably drink a 6-pack of these and you'd wake up the next morning feeling nothing other than bloated from just drinking too much. I like it, but I don't love it. I'm going to go 8-9. I can't remember exactly, and I forgot to write it down. I wrote it on another piece of paper that I didn't bring up for the podcast. Definitely like it, but between the four we've had, is my favorite, and I want to say the first two that we had I put kind of in like the low 8s. It doesn't, just because it's black cherry, it doesn't feel right to put it in as a 9. So I think 8-9 is where to put it, and it's perfect. So yeah, like I said, go check them out, whiteclaw.com, and then you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter or X, whatever you call it. And then just like the last couple weeks, no real big news as far as Tommytown is concerned. However, it was announced to me back on Monday that football and volleyball single-game tickets are now on sale for the 2025 fall season. Both teams are expected to record top finishes in their respective conferences, as the Tommy football and volleyball teams finished in the Pioneer third in the Pioneer Football League and Summit League this last year, which is amazing. Once again, this is the first semester that St. Thomas is postseason eligible. So should the volleyball team win the Summit League, or should the football team win the Pioneer Football League, they will make it into postseason play, which will be so much fun to see. I know I've already brought it up, but I will be at the home opener with my brother-in-law, who actually went to St. Thomas, which would be super fun. And you bet your ass, if any team this year makes it to the national tournament, I will be there. So if you want to come check it out, check me out, meet up, say hi, I will be there. And then, just briefly, St. Thomas football starts as low as $25 for the 25 season, which include home games against Lindenwood, which is the Thursday night game. The first Thursday of the season, I believe it's August 28th, sounds right. But then you can also see us play Butler, Valparaiso, Marist, and Presbyterian. Group tickets, including those for youth football night, high school band night, are also on sale for the Tommy football season, with reserved bench seats starting at $10 for all contestants. Volleyball single match tickets start at $12. All seating is general admission for the season. And they're coming off, like I said, their best Division One finish in the Division One era. So a huge congratulations to them. Can't wait to see how they end up doing. But like I said, unfortunately, we still have to wait a little while longer for football, or not for football, but for basketball and hockey. And unfortunately, like I said, that is the only new news. But if you are a football or volleyball fan, make sure you go get those tickets. You bet your butt within the next week, my brother-in-law and I are getting our tickets for the home opener for the football team. So go check those out. And I'm sure if you check it out on a daily basis, like the psycho that I am, you might actually find out about single game tickets for football or for hockey and basketball before we even announce it and bring it up on the podcast. So go do that. Now for everybody's favorite part of the podcast, Minny Weekend Bets. So last week was I forgot to I remembered it, but last week was not going to mince words, was a very bad week for us. We went 0-3, bringing us at 20 to 25 and 22 all time, 53.2%. So we're still hovering over 50%, which we in the biz consider failing, but we are not. And like always, before we say the magic words, like we do every single week, the Red Sox, we had the money line plus 110 last week. That did not happen. They unfortunately lost to the Cubs 1-4. Detroit's run line at least at 1.5 over the Texas Rangers. That did not hit as they lost 0-2 to the Rangers. And then lastly, the Cardinals money line of plus 110 over the Diamondbacks. Also, that one did not hit as they ended up losing 3-7 to the Diamondbacks. But like always, we bounce back. So with that leads into our picks for this week. This week is another 4-pick week for you guys. So without further ado, our first pick that we have for you guys is the Los Angeles Angels money line minus 110 over the Seattle Mariners. Logan Evans is getting the start for Seattle, and in his 10 starts has delivered an ERA of 3.81 with a whip of 1.42. While you see Kikuchi is starting for the Angels, and he has 21 starts dealing with an ERA of 3.13 with his whip at 1.38. The left-hander, this is the meat and the potatoes. Seattle is hitting just 206 in their past 5 games coming off the break, with LA batting a whopping 297. Evans in his first 5 row starts carries the ERA of 6.75. And the Mariners are just 7-13 on the road when lined up at plus 110 to plus 150. And to make matters worse, the Angels are 21-15 at home against right-handed starters. So give me the Angels minus 110 over the Seattle Mariners. Pick number 2, we have the Toronto Blue Jays over the Detroit Tigers, just the money line plus 120. And Toronto's batting a little bit better than the Angels are. 299 in their past 5 games coming off the break, with the Tigers at 194. The Blue Jays bullpen in their past 24 games has a collective ERA of 3.4, while Detroit's bullpen in the last 23 has an ERA of 4.97. The Blue Jays right now are 13-3 on the road against winning teams. And Detroit has lost 4 of 6 at home against winning teams. So like I said, give me the Toronto Blue Jays at plus 120. Then the next two games we have coming from the WNBA. And quite frankly, after taking a look at some more of these MLB games and these WNBA games, there are 2 of the bottom feeding teams playing tomorrow night on Thursday that made it pretty easy for us to take these picks. So the first one is give me the LA Sparks minus 6.5 against the spread over Connecticut. To be completely frank, the Connecticut Suns continue to stink up the WNBA this year, residing with the league's basement record of 3-19. It's not really just a case of bad luck. The advanced stats actually have them far and away the worst team in the league. The Sparks aren't necessarily hot themselves with their 9-14 record. However, the weird thing is they are 6-6 on the road and only 3-8 at home. Luckily for them, tomorrow's game is in Connecticut. So like I said, give me the LA Sparks as 6.5 point favorites over the Connecticut Suns. The last one that we have for you guys is the Seattle Storm minus 9.5 over the Chicago Sky. And like I said, speaking of, the bad seasons, the bottom feeding teams, the Chicago Sky are having one themselves, going 7-16 thus far, third worst in the league, and only 4-6 at home. And their star forward, Angel Reese, if you can call her that, is questionable for tomorrow night's game as well against the Storm, which isn't a good sign. The Storm are firmly kind of a little bit better than the Sparks in the middle class of the WNBA this season, which puts them well above the Sky. Plus, Seattle is expected to have Skylar Diggins back in their lineup tomorrow night, which should give them a bump. And I think these 2 games should be pretty easy pickings for you guys looking to make some money tomorrow night. So give me Seattle minus 9.5 over the Chicago Sky. So in recap, our 4 picks for you guys tonight, we have in the MLB, the LA Angels money line minus 110 over the Seattle Mariners. Number 2, the Toronto Blue Jays money line plus 120 over the Detroit Tigers. And then in the WNBA, the LA Sparks as 6.5 point favorites over the Connecticut Sun. And then the last leg in the WNBA, the Seattle Storm as 9.5 point favorites over the Chicago Sky. Now, the one official question we got tonight came from a good friend, listener of the podcast of Gabe.Weber64. And Gabe.Weber, before we get away from our bets, wanted to know, how about some player prop bets for the 2025 season? Didn't think about that. And thank you for the question, Gabe. And we, after our research and homework, have 2 for you guys tonight. Specifically, I don't know why, but I kind of liked looking at the rookies for this upcoming season. So with that, the 2 futures that I have for you guys that are player props this week are, the first one is the New York Giants running back Cam Skattebo. Right now, his rushing touchdowns for the year is set at 3.5, and I really like the over for this. I know he's going to be, and a lot of you might be thinking, what the hell? He's going to be sharing the backfield with Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Devin Singletary, but I really think he's going to be a crucial role in the Giants' short yardage offense. Both Tracy Jr. and Singletary struggled to score near the goal line last season. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, Skattebo excelled in go-to-goal situations over the past 2 seasons in college, having converted 22 touchdowns, tied for second most in the FBS. Yes, I understand college football is completely different than NFL football, but clearly this guy knows how to get it done. He knows how to get in there and just make it happen. So like I said, at the very least, he will get 4 rushing touchdowns, if not more, this season. This isn't necessarily like an official hot take or under Truthfully or anything like that. I would not be surprised if Cam Skattebo by the end of the season, with how much of a dumpster fire the Giants are, I would not be surprised to see him as a running back one by the end of the season. And then the second one I like I said, is also a rookie, and the rookie is on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it's wide receiver Travis Hunter to hit over 700.5 receiving yards. If I'm being quite frank with you guys, part of the reason I took this was because of the number they had him at. The other crazy thing is, I don't think Trevor Lawrence has a lot of weapons to throw to. But then looking into it, he will be lining up against Brian Thomas Jr., which will put pressure on defenses, giving him the space to gash these defenses. Another thing to think about in this is, Jack, is he really going to be doing that? Because the Jaguars have been apparent that they're going to use him on both sides of the ball. As much as that is, the expectation is that he will be heavily used more on the offensive side of the ball to start. And and then very similar to Cam Scatterbo, having logged 28 receptions of 15 or more yards in 2024. Hunter can definitely rack up yardage in the blink of an eye, especially those yak yards too. He doesn't necessarily need a ton of deep balls from Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has got to find ways to get the balls in his hands, and he's going to be able to come up with, I'm guessing, at least 800 yards this season. So those are the two futures that we have for you guys. Rookie Cam Scatterbo for the Giants to hit over 3.5 rushing touchdowns for the year. Don't know if we denoted that rushing touchdowns. And then Travis Hunter to hit over 725.5 receiving yards for the year. And that is what we have for you guys for our bets. Last thing I do want to say about that, I know some weeks I do a good job of bringing this up, and some weeks I don't, and I need to get into a better habit of for you guys. I'm doing it every single week. Once again, all of these bets, I am not a financial planner or a financial advisor. Sorry, of course I butchered that. Everything that I'm giving you guys is my opinion based off of research and the homework I've done. So I'm not liable for any losses, just like I do not come after you for any of your winnings. Do with these picks what you will. And if you have any problems gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLING and they will find you and get you help. So with that, onward and upward. Our good friends over at UNRL, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but one of the two, our sweatshirt we're wearing tonight is one of the two that we unboxed for you guys. Really sweet, and actually my favorite part of the hoodie. It's got these cool things on the cuffs, and then it'll be hard to show you, but they have this same thing kind of on the back, lapel kind of down by your butt, which is really cool. And then if this isn't cool enough and makes you excited for the football season, excited to check out UNRL.com, I was checking the other day because a lot of these limited editions that they have, once they are done and they're all sold out, they still have lookbooks. So you can go to, like last year, the UNRL Minnesota Timberwolves stuff, and you can kind of see what they did, and they look so nice. But what a lot of you might not know is if you go to their website, UNRL.com, you go over to collaborations, and if you click on Minnesota Vikings UNRL, that's under shop now. So this one is not available. This one's not available, but there are some limited UNRL Minnesota Vikings Volume 4 drops that you can still get. I'm going to warn you, I don't want to get your hopes up. Most of them are extra smalls, XLs, double XLs, and triple XLs. So if those are sizes that are for you, I urge you, and you want some swag, you want some of this sweet, sweet merch, they still have some of these left that you can buy. But like I said, most of them are in the smaller or the bigger sizes. But I did want to shout that out because I didn't know that a lot of people know that. And then wanted to give you guys a quick shout out for my golf fans out there. So they have, unfortunately, you can't buy them online. I had to check out myself too. But the 3M Open is this weekend. It started earlier. Today, Wednesday, with the Pro-Am and stuff like that. The majority of the rounds with the pros and everything are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And they have a lot of sweet stuff, guys, that they made just for the 3M Open, and even a couple more. Some of their normal stuff that they're just selling there. Unfortunately, you can't get them online. Like I said, you have to go to the 3 a.m. Open. But if you go to their website, you can buy tickets specifically from the site, or it'll redirect you, and then you can go and get some of this stuff. Believe me, I wish I had the time this weekend to go because I need some of this stuff, but there will be more opportunities. I know there will be. So yeah, that is what we have for our friends over at UNRL or Unreal, whichever you prefer. And then kind of getting into, I was kind of surprised, kind of monitoring like I do every single week for you guys, getting ready for the podcast. There wasn't a whole lot of professional sports talk to talk about, so it will be a rather short episode this week. But a couple of things we did want to talk about too. So it looks like, as far as the Wild are concerned, it sounds like extension talks with both Kaprizov and Rossi are kind of stalled out for right now. Don't freak out, everybody around the organization that I follow and that I look into. Everybody is very confident that whether it's before the season, whether it's before 2026, whether it's early on in the season, there will be an extension signed. From what I've been hearing and from what I've been reading, it sounds like the biggest holdup is the length of the contract. I don't think either sides are kind of going back and forth between the money side of it. I think Kirill know what he's worth, and I think the Wild know what he's worth as well. I don't think that's the issue. I think the biggest thing is, if you're the Wild, you probably want him signing an 8 to 7 year, or 6 to 7 year deal. Whereas if you're Kirill, and you're looking out for your best interest, you're like, maybe I only want a 3 or 4 year deal to see if we can actually win playoff series, and then, I can commit long term. So that is what I'm hearing. It sounds like, just like everything is the off season, within the next coming weeks, he's going to be coming back to Minnesota. And it sounds like once he comes back to Minnesota, there is a lot of high hopes in terms of getting that taken care of. As far as Marco Rossi is concerned, from what I've heard, there's been no recent talks. And it seems to me like Rossi and the Wild are very, very, very far off. Rossi is essentially looking for a lot of money, and rightfully so. He had a great year this last year, and the Wild, with him as being a restricted free agent, are essentially saying, it seems to me, what I've been reading and what I've been seeing, they're essentially saying, go see what you can get, because as a restricted free agent, whenever he gets offered by another team, the Wild have an opportunity to match it. But the Wild have to be careful with that, because if there is a team, and I don't even know who, but I'm just saying, I'm just going to say a name just for the sake of saying it. Like, if there's a team that has a lot of money, like the Columbus Blue Jackets, let's say you're saying, hey, we're not really wanting to sign you for more than, I don't know, $7 million. Let's say you got the Columbus Blue Jackets coming out and saying, hey, we'll give you $15 million a year that you're looking for. You certainly don't want something like that to happen, because if you're the Wild, then you're essentially losing it for nothing. But I think what the Wild are realizing is, okay, you had a great season last year. How long are you going to be able to do that for? And are you going to be able to stay healthy and everything like that? And I think the Wild are kind of hoping that, okay, he gets a couple offer sheets, and his offer sheets are within $1 million or a couple 100,000 of the number they're looking at. And then they can just say, hey, we're sending you, we're matching it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Like I said, I think in a perfect world, it sounds like even before all this came to fruition and came to where the standstill that we are at now, to me, it seems like trading him didn't go as planned. But if I'm being completely honest, knowing what I know now, I think trying to trade him is probably the way to go, because even though we can offer him what the other teams can offer him, with how these talks have been going, even if the number for the Wild, like I said, is, $7 million, and the Flyer, he has 3 teams that are like, hey, we'll give you the $7 million. Wild will say, hey, we'll give you $7 million too. He may not want to go to those other 3 teams, but because it's been going so shitty with us and our contract extension with him, he might essentially give us a finger and say, yeah, no, see you later. And that is something that you don't ideally want to happen, but it sounds like we have some guys in our farm system and guys that are going back to college for a year, maybe 2, that could fill that void within the next year or 2. So, but yeah, we're just going to have to wait to see what happens. It's crazy to think training camps are starting up soon here, which is essentially less than 60 days away. So crazy to think we're that close to the NHL season, which also means we're closer to the NFL season. But before we get to NFL talk, there was one other thing we wanted to bring up, and we actually have no new news as far as much of the NBA or the Minnesota Timberwolves are concerned. So really quickly, there's been a lot of talk this last week, especially this last weekend with That's When It Happening. The WNBA players wearing that god-awful "pay us what you owe us" shirt. Which is, yeah, it's a little insane to me. And there are definitely things on both sides of the thing that I've seen. I'm sure a lot of you that are big basketball fans or big into the WNBA, you probably heard Jameel Hill talking about, the whole, the WNBA isn't making money isn't a fair argument, because her whole thing was, even though it's not making money, they're getting closer to making money within the next couple of years, and that gap is getting smaller and smaller. So with that being said, they should be making more money, and that argument makes a little bit of sense. But when you think about it, if you're wearing a "pay us what you owe" a shirt to a league that is literally losing money, and that I don't know for certain, but the WNBA could be, it's for sure a tax write-off, but it could be technically a nonprofit done by the NBA. And I've heard this so many times, and it's so true, but them wearing those god-awful shirts is essentially the same thing as working for a company that is like, hey, that's told you, hey, we're going under, we're not doing very well, we're losing money, we got to do the best we can to retain, and do the best we can. Within 30 days after that, going in there and being like, hey, you know what? I need a raise. I've been working my butt off. I've been doing some really good things, really awesome things for the company, and I need a raise. Your supervisor would look at you and say, I don't know if you remember, but we told you we were losing money and we weren't doing well. I don't understand, and I don't understand necessarily where a lot of these women get off, quite frankly. And yes, I know their CBA is coming up in the off season, so that's another big reason a lot of this talk has been happening this year. But at the same time, I think this league needs to be appreciative of what the NBA is doing for them. But I also just think they need to be patient. I mean, they're not doing a great job of embracing a gal in the league that's literally bringing millions and millions in the future. And I understand there are a lot of people in the WNBA not making much money. A gal like Caitlin Clark is maybe not making a lot off her salary, but this woman is literally making millions in endorsement deals. And if she's making millions in endorsement deals, some of that is going to come to the rest of the league and the rest of the players and some of these younger players and all that kind of stuff. So my big thing to these women would be just be patient. And quite frankly, I think it would be really, really, really funny if they actually sat out and striked if they didn't get what they wanted. Because I think they would realize very, 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 very quickly, not a ton of people really care too much about the WNBA. And I think they would see everybody's true colors and realize the WNBA and the NBA and the NBA players and men are what are really going after the league. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, ladies, if the WNBA players strike, there aren't going to be a lot of men that care. And I've heard it before, and I'm going to reiterate it again. If women really cared about this league, they would be going to games like they buy stuff from Lululemon, like they do from, buying Christian Dior and all these really nice things. But they don't. They want you to get paid what you deserve, but they don't want to support you the way you think they are supporting you. So it's an interesting time and an interesting thing to see. But cooler heads will prevail, and we're just going to have to wait and see how it goes. Hopefully the Lynx can win the next championship before any of this crap may or may not happen. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say on that. And then wrapping up the podcast for the night, I thought we would kind of talk about a couple of football things. So the first thing, I didn't really officially get a question, but there were a lot of people that were tagging me in this stuff, and a lot of people want to know what is essentially happening with this Shamar Stewart thing. And essentially, he is a defensive end that was drafted in the first round, 17th pick by the Cincinnati Bengals, and he is technically not signed to a contract yet. And I don't know exactly what it says in the contract, but to make it brief, essentially, he and his representatives do not want to sign his contract because in his contract, there's something that says if he pertaining to conduct detrimental to the team, that it would void his guaranteed money to Stewart, which is a clause the Bengals have recently added to mirror other teams around the league. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, before we came on tonight, I didn't realize that there were other teams that did this, but I have two things I want to say to this, and kind of similar to, I get both sides, but I'm going to tell you who I kind of lean with. And it's a shitty thing to put this young gentleman in, but at the same time, I get it, because I heard the president essentially saying, if this guy ends up in jail, I don't want to have to pay him. 1,000,000%. The issue though with this is, if you look up Shamar Stephen anywhere online, anywhere in the media, it doesn't appear to me that he has ever had any off-field issues. There's no DUIs. There's nothing about this guy. And I tried looking into it beforehand to see, and it wasn't. Now, I think what should happen is, I don't really care what the Bengals do because I'm a Vikings fan, but what should happen is, I think the NFL and the NFLPA need to get together and make it kind of like a universal thing around the league, that is a stipulation you put in your contracts. Because I've said it before, and I will say it a million times, NFL players and professional athletes make millions of dollars, but they are no different than me working for my metal distributor, my wife for being a teacher, like no different than Joe Schmo going to work for his accounting firm. That if Joe Schmo does something at his accounting firm, or if I do something at my job that my company does not like or does not approve, and it's detrimental to me or the company, they can fire me. So these guys that are making millions of dollars, and these owners that are ponying out millions of dollars for their athletic ability, they should be held to the exact same standard. You get a DUI, and that makes a bad look on us. I don't want to have to pay you anymore. God forbid you do something stupid and you beat somebody up and you get in jail. I don't want to have to pay you a dime. So I 1,000,000% agree with this owner, but I think there needs to be a little bit of coming together on this and making it like a league-wide thing. Because for one, I think it would really clean up some of the players in the league that have these attitudes and have these off-field issues, and make it so that you're having men of character and decent guys in the league. But I think it is pretty shitty that this is one of the first instances as far as the Cincinnati Bengals are concerned, because he's still one of only a few guys that hasn't been signed yet. So I get it from both point of views. He doesn't want to sign something that he doesn't agree with, but at the same time, it's like, okay, it's a 3 or 4 year contract, so he'll be able to re-sign something in the next couple of years anyways. And then on the same side of it, the Cincinnati Bengals 1,000,000%, but should be able to, like Henry Ruggs, should be able to say, you kill somebody, see you later. We're not going to pay you anything for that. Like, you're a criminal. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, like I said, it's a shitty situation, but it sounds like people in the organization are hopeful that it'll get taken care of soon enough. And then the last two things I thought we would just quickly talk about is, I know for my Vikings fans and my TikTok followers and social media followers, I should just say, I did my first game by game prediction for you guys. We'll do another one for you in our football preview podcast coming up in about a month here before the season starts. But yeah, we did that within the last day or two. But I thought we'd just kind of take a look at this the schedule as a whole, because looking at it, it's kind of a little bit of a roller coaster. And I think if you're the Minnesota Vikings, you really, really, really have to take advantage of the first 5 weeks of your schedule, because then after you come home and you get your bye week, the next 4 weeks for them are the toughest 4-game stretch in their in their season. And if the Vikings can come into their bye week with 4 or 5 wins, and God forbid they lose 4 straight out of their bye, and get out of their toughest part of their schedule, being 4-5 or 5-4 or something like that, that would be optimal. But obviously, you guys saw it. I'm hopeful that within those last 4 games, there is going to be a game that we kind of steal. It's going to be really, really tough in weeks 7 and 8, because not only are you coming out of your bye week fresh, but then you got to go play the reigning Super Bowl champs, who, sure, they're maybe not the exact same team that won the whole thing, but they're still the champs. They're still a really good team. They still got Saquon. They still got Jalen Hurts. They still got A.J. Brown and all those guys. And then again, and then after that, not only do you have a short week for Thursday Night Football, but you got to travel for it. Like, the Los Angeles Chargers on paper is a team that we're very comparable to and a team that we should beat. But again, if you're getting done with Philly, it's Monday, and then all of a sudden you got to fly out, sometime Monday, then you have Tuesday, Wednesday to get ready for a Thursday night game. Even if you're playing the Little Sisters of the Poor on Sunday and you have to travel all the way out to the West Coast for a Thursday night game, that's just a tough situational game to win. I mean, I think either that or the Detroit game, and then, the nice thing is with that Thursday night game, then you have a little bit of a mini bye week, if you will, to get ready for their first matchup against the new look Detroit Lions. But then, yeah, I mean, like I said, other than, week 7, 8, 9, 10, this schedule really isn't that intimidating. Like, if you look at, I look at the 5 toughest opponents on our schedule, and it's probably Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Washington, and the Lions. And we get to play the Lions once at home, once away. We host Washington. We host Cincinnati. We host Philadelphia. And we host Baltimore. So all things considered, the 5 tougher opponents that we have, we're hosting all of them at least once with the Lions, and then the other ones we're hosting all of them. So it's not like we have to travel into, I'm looking at some of these away games we have. Chicago, winnable. LA, winnable. Green Bay, winnable. Seattle, winnable. Dallas, winnable. New York, winnable. So it's not like we're really going into that much of a hostile environment. Now, if we had to go to Cincy, even if they have a bad defense, that's going to be tough. If we have to go to Philly, that's going to be tough. If we go to Baltimore, that's going to be a recipe for a disaster. Fortunately for us, our tougher opponents this year, we get in the comfort of our own building, which will be huge, because then, yeah, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily going to be a cakewalk, but it should be a good schedule. Again, I don't love having our bye week that early in the season, but with having back-to-back weeks abroad in weeks 4 and 5, it makes sense that it's in week 6. But I wish we were playing one of those, only one game, and the game was in week 7 or 8, so that we had the bye week in week 8 or 9, which was more in the middle of the season. But that's the other weird thing too, because it's the last couple of years since they've adopted the 17 thing schedule, it's usually at the beginning for us. Last year it was week 6-2. 2023, I guess it was week 13. And then 2022, week 7, and then 2021, that might have been, no, 2021 was week 7 as well. I think 2020 was the last year of, 16, and it was still in week 7. So, but, beggars can't be choosers. And then the last thing I thought would be pretty interesting to bring up and talk about before we let you guys go is the preseason for our quarterback position. And the reason I bring this up is because I'm Going to be very interested to see what Kevin O'Connell does with the preseason, because typically your starting quarterback, JJ McCarthy, especially since they've gone to 3 games, doesn't play at all. Maybe one drive in week 3 or something like that. It's mainly for guys like Brett Ripien, Brock Brosmer, and I can't remember the third guy, but it's primarily to see, okay, who is worth keeping, who's going to be our backup? Who's going to be like our practice squad guy? And if we really do have 3 good guys, okay, we'll put 2 guys on practice squad. So it's really to kind of see who's going to be, filling those voids. But at the same time, your starting quarterback is somebody who hasn't seen a snap in a game since the preseason. So it'll be interesting to see if he maybe plays him for a drive in each game or what he does. Because on one hand, he needs some more of those snaps. Like, I know he's doing training camp stuff. I know he's going to be doing like these joint practices and things like that. But at the same time, it's different than game settings. And it'd be nice for him to get sacked and get rushed a couple times in the preseason and get used to that with these big guys instead of his first game or 2. But yeah, it'll be fun to see. For those that maybe don't know, the preseason schedule for us looks like on Saturday, August 9th, which is like 2.5 weeks away. We host the Houston Texans at 3 p.m. Saturday the 16th, we host the New England Patriots at noon. And then wrapping up the preseason, they have to go to Tennessee to take on the Titans on August 22nd at 7 p.m. So that is what they have for preseason, and that is all I have for you guys tonight. As usual, this podcast about you guys, the listeners. If you have a question you want me to answer, if you have a topic you want me to address, please reach out. We are on Instagram, we are on Twitter, X, TikTok, Facebook, email us, reach out. It doesn't matter. I check everything multiple times a week. Please reach out, and also make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and the bell on the YouTube page so you're getting notified of the new episodes that come out. And wherever you listen to the podcast, make sure you go subscribe to that so you get notifications and can stay up to date on all things Minny Weekend. And with that, I will leave you guys with, until next time, Minny.